how are you? Hope you're fine. This is the Shy Yeti Show.
Okay, away you go.
Why have I got horns?
Oh no.
Oh, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
Oh, there's going to be some drama ahead.
All I wanted was a pie, and then I hatched out of an egg.
Okay, bring the mic over. He's ready to record.
Is it metaphorical? Is it deep? Is it deep?
Good boy. He's not all that shy, is right.
Blimey, Governor. It's the Shy Life Podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Hello, Paul.
7.
Quack, quack, quack.
I don't know how it does.
20.
Excellent.
726. 720 feet.
726. 726.
Bonjour et bienvenue au podcast The Shy Life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shy Life Podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti. How you doing? I'm alright. So what's this episode going to be about? Well, we're going to go all random again. We haven't been random for a while, so why not? Let's just be random. Let's be random about being random.
Random all my life, eh?
Yeah, Nick is back here. He is here. He is back, and we're going. Yes, we're going to be random together. So let's run that theme music.
Splendid.
Yeah, we'll run the theme music, and then when we come back, we'll get on and busily be random for you. Right, run that theme music.
Darling, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Yeah, but it's a positive thing, Paul. The High Life, the Shy Life.
I'll go anywhere for a potato.
Delicious.
Hello, campers. How are you?
Oh, yippee.
Go Shy Yeti.
Oh, I hope he hasn't found out my secret. I think he has.
I love the Yeti test. It's my favorite thing.
If you thought that was bad, just listen to this.
Yeah, I'm strangely drawn to Yeti Uncle John's ankles as well.
I could eat my body weight in crisps.
Has anyone seen my hot sausage?
It's all gooey and meaty. Yum, 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 yum.
It was enormous.
I don't think I'm ready to speak about it.
Here comes the grizzly.
It's the Shy Life Podcast.
I can't wait for it to begin.
I like that.
Hi there.
Marvelous, Paul.
Oh dear, I can't believe that old bag is still around.
So yes, I think we're going to do some random words. We have some random questions. We may, even though it's past the time of the anniversary of Doctor Who, we are probably by the time this episode goes out, around the beginning of a new era of the show. So why not? Let's as I do with my own birthdays, why not let the 60th anniversary celebrations go on well into the next year?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. As some listeners may remember, we did around the time of the anniversary, we did some chat about random Doctor Who stories picked by the randomizer, and we might do one or two more Doctor Who stories randomly picked by that. But let's start with some random words first. Okay. I've set it to pick 5 words, and you don't have to talk about all 5, but it gives you a bit of a choice because, and you can decide which of these you'd like to talk about. We have inspector, muggy, bolt, launch, or bike.
That's actually quite a good choice. There are at least 2 I can think of doing that, but I'll try and stick with one. Sorry, what was the last one?
Inspector, muggy, bolt, launch, and bike.
Inspector.
You can talk about 2. Just sort of.
I'm going to go inspector and bike.
Yeah.
Inspector. First thing that comes to mind is there's some from me and some impersonally, not from me. Inspector Mackenzie from the Raffles series, who was very Scottish and very over the top and very excitable and always wanted to catch Raffles, who was a gentleman thief, splendidly played by Victor Curran in the TV series in the 70s. For my own part, I've actually played 2 kind of inspectors. In the film we worked together on called Retaliators, I don't think I was an inspector because there was an inspector character, But I was a private investigator who worked with an inspector. But I dressed like an inspector. I kind of had the raincoat which I had at the time, and a hat, and a sort of taggedy Scottish accent. But I actually did play an inspector per se. 30 years ago, on stage in a couple of two short half-hour plays that were written, as far as I can tell, in half hour, by my friend Stu Hughes, and it was a Please Insert Your Stolen Credit Card. It was a sort of a murder mystery, and I was the inspector in it, and I interrogated everybody, and I actually got poisoned at the end. It's the first time I was out on stage, but certainly not the last. So yes, yeah, and I've often also the TV character Inspector Gadget when I used to have my raincoat, which I now rue because I think it sort of lost me a lot of girlfriends. I actually was called Inspector Gadget quite a lot because of the thing. I've never said to me Inspector Gadget, but apparently I looked like. Oh, and bike. Back in the 70s, I was taught to ride a bike. It was my sister's old bike from a guy called Malcolm Sturgis, who is a lifelong friend and lived in the Beaches, by Harry and his dad and his mum. And he wanted to teach me the piano, which I kind of resisted. I thought that was a bit too complicated. But he did teach me how to ride a bike, and I was absolutely devoted to my little bike. Rode it up and down the Beaches, and I think even the chain went, and I don't know why I didn't put it back on again, or but just I lost it. And even without the chain, I go, I'd be up there. It came to a sticky end because I left it in the drive at number 3. I was at number 1, and the guy called Robin Harris, who lived at number 3, obviously was capable of seeing a great big bike in front of him when he was driving up. I rode straight over it, and basically lost his temper with me, and then apologised, and that was the end of the bike because I carelessly left it on there. It was a stupid thing to do, but he would have thought he'd seen a bike go there. I never passed what I think is either cycling proficiency test or Coca-Cola test, which was like doing all sorts of obstacles and being there. I don't think I ever passed my cycling, but I never took it up. It was one of those opportunities. Oh, it's going, and I was always doing something else at the time. But I had a chopper in the early 80s. Then I got a super duper solo bike, which was I think bought for new around about 1986, which took me to studio theatre and took me to this and took me to that. And I had a bit of a freak out with it in 1989 when I was on the dual carriageway, and that put me off bike riding again to this day.
Yeah, I don't remember you ever having a bike, to be honest.
No, it was. I think I didn't use it all that much. I don't think I went to work on it, and I just used it. I did use it here and there, and I quite like the idea of having a bike, but I just don't like roads. So in actual fact, bike riding was just sort of the bike lanes and sort of things away from the road. I'd be on a bike now, but
come back.
No, but I'm doing a random episode, so I won't go off on a bike. But I think it was roads that purely killed off my interest. I had the bike for years. It was still there when I got together with Ali. We had it in the shed at St Martin's Church Street for years. I did eventually sell it on. It was a bit of a wasted opportunity there. It was a very, very nice bike, and I'm rather sorry I sort of let it down a bit. But yes, that was bikes for me.
I could have spoken about Inspector and bikes, but only really Inspector from the point of view of liking detective shows. So I'm going to talk about bikes, but I'm also going to talk about Launch. I'll talk about Launch first. And when I think of Launch, I think of, particularly in the noughties, when I used to have my book launch parties, which was always sometimes I'd have 2, like I remember 1 or 2 books where I had a party on a Friday, but I knew that some people would be coming up for the Saturday, so I would have another one the next day.
I went to one.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember Lloyd, your friend at the time, getting very excited.
Yeah, it was a nice excuse to meet up with people and get people together. Sometimes I'd have one, or it would happen that a book was coming out near my birthday. So sometimes I turned it into a bit of a birthday drinks, but it was always before or maybe after my birthday, because in those days I was always away for my birthday. I do remember being in a pub quite near Goose Street Station, and a complete stranger came up to me and said, "Oh, what's going on here?" And it's not like it was ever official or sanctioned by the pub. We just, a group of friends were told to come if they liked, and I had some books to sell if they wanted to, but it was all very hush-hush in a way. Yeah. Anyway, the stranger comes over and says, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just having a little book launch with some friends." And he said, "Oh, if I give you 20 quid or whatever it was, 20, 30 quid, how many books will that get me?" And I said 2 or 3, and he took them away, and I never heard from him again.
What a nice thing to happen.
Yeah, and I don't know whether, he said something about having a daughter. I don't know whether he thought the Mouse of Commons books, well, the Mouse of Commons books were meant for any age, really. And so, yeah.
I to be honest, with the books that I did, was particularly under Alan, I think I missed a trick by not having a book launch, because we worked for 5 years on each book, I didn't quite have the self-confidence to do it in at a venue, but I wish now I'd had a book launch for the 4 I did with Alan, and Joe, of course, was involved, and yourself.
Some of my book launches turned into quite big events, or beyond the actual book launch. I remember my friend Quint coming over from, well, he didn't live in Amsterdam, but he lived near Amsterdam, and he came over, and then so we did the book launch, and then we went out clubbing till whatever o'clock in the morning, and it became quite a big a sociable event, a lot of fun. You know, I've still got photos from a lot of the launches, and in fact, because it was also poetry books, a lot of the poetry books got reissued as they hit their 10th anniversaries, and then there'd be a book launch, and then the photos from the book launch would appear in maybe the next book that came out, because I tended to have like a news section of what's been going on, or what's been going on in the blog to do with the writing, and yeah, it's nice. A lot of those photos are still around, and some of them are preserved in the books as well as on the blog. As for bikes, I was very much a bikey child, because I lived in a village and we all had our bikes, and the older I got, the further I explored. When we were quite young, there was a village called Bodenham, which is sort of the next village along towards Salisbury. You can cycle to Bodenham, mainly quite safely. So I don't know how young we were when we used to go. But the thing is, there used to be a post office in Charlton, in my parents' village, and that must have closed down by the late 80s or early 90s. I remember I was very friendly with the lady who ran the shop, and she liked Doctor Who, and I remember she was still living there with her husband around the time that Robots of Death came out on video, whichever year that would have been. 86. Would I have had it that early? Probably would have been a bit later than when I had it.
It was reissued in '95 as an episodic one, because originally it wasn't episodically.
Yeah, maybe because I wasn't aware that they were being released for a while. Around the time of Seeds of Death and Death the Dalek, those were the first videos I had of Doctor Who. Anyway, probably was the late 80s, because I feel like they've been gone for a long time now. But all I remember is that I got to show her a Leela story before she left, because she and her husband always liked Leela.
I bet he did.
So when they left the post office, that shop closed down, so we no longer had that shop. So Bodmin was the closest place to us, and that was where you could go for sweets, but it did involve a cycle down country lanes to get to it. And then by the time I was 11 or 12 or 13, I had friends in Salisbury who also liked cycling, or a friend who liked cycling, and again I was able to cycle to Salisbury without having to go the roadway. Well, there were roads, but they were quieter roads, because I was able to go through a private estate, because I had a pass to do that, at the right side of town, to meet my friend for cycling. When I was doing Sutton Park, and I still haven't seen this episode yet, because I haven't tracked it down. It's not that easy.
That's a big one.
It still exists. It's not that easy to pick out, because it would have just involved me. It's going to be an episode from the mid-90s with just me. If I can find my book with all the dates and times, I might be able to trace it down, or it might be mention the location. But I did a cliffhanger where I was quite proficient on my bike. I could cycle without touching the handlebars if I wanted to. I never really did wheelies and things, but I never had like a chopper. I had a bike, just a bike. But then, foolishly, I got a racing bike, which was a really bad idea when you live in the countryside and there were lots of thorns and the hedges would get trimmed by a machine, and then there'll be debris on the road. I was forever getting punctures. Later on, I got a mountain bike, but it was actually more like it was my dad had bought it for himself and then never used it, and I sort of stole it effectively. I mean, they gave it me, but going back to the Sutton Park era, we also had a couple of fold-up bikes as a family. I remember riding those as well. It was all about bikes when I was growing up, and I can't swear to you which bike I was on when I did the Sutton Park. It might have been might have been one of my parents' ones. Anyway, I tried to do a cliffhanger where the brakes went. Odstock itself, another village quite near my parents, is just a flat village, like a flat road, but there are sort of on the outskirts of it, there's a hill that goes up to the not the Dark and Windy Moors, but the nearest we have to a Dark and Windy Moor. Don't know what you call that area.
A good location.
There's a lot of hilly fields behind, stretching all the way down to Downton and beyond, and from Salisbury to. And I think it's probably, I might be making this up, but I think it's sort of where the coaches and horses would have gone. I think it was a bit of a highwayman area at one point, and it's quite away from where the current roads are. So it always used to feel quite quiet and mysterious. And anyway, from being at Odstock School, I knew there were woods. I knew there was this horseshoe road that went up this steep hill by the woods and down the other side. I went up the hill and I tried to film coming down the hill without the brakes and coming off my bike. And I think most of it was me just kind of filming as I was cycling, not with the camera attached to my helmet, because that wasn't possible in those days. I just used one hand and filmed and hoped I didn't meet a tractor or a car. And then I think I just had to sort of stage the coming off the bike by sort of going, oh, and then putting it out to my face and going, oh, and then sort of getting off the bike and then shoving it into the bike. But I haven't seen how good it looks. Probably not very good at all, but it was a fun one to do. The nearest I got to doing a stunt. There was no point me trying to fall off the bike in any sort of dramatic way, because I didn't have another cameraman there to sort of. I don't think I'd have wanted to hurt myself or fall off a bike. But I even had a bike when I lived in Surrey. Particularly when I lived in Woking, I remember, because there were canal paths, sometimes I got into my head I might start to cycle to work on the canal path. The first day I went, this was with the mountain bike, the pedal dropped off, and then I had to try and cycle home with just one pedal, which isn't very easy. When I was dating Kirk, I had my bike based at his place, because we'd go cycling sort of near where he lived, and that was quite fun for a while, but that didn't last. Not long before I got sick, about 10 years ago, I even got them to sort of put a new wheel on, but after I was ill, I never really sort of got well enough to be cycling, because there was always one thing after another. Also around this time, I can't remember if it was a bike that Harry had in Oxford, but when he moved to London, he didn't really have the space for it. He said, can you look after my bike? And I couldn't really look after his bike either. I didn't really have space. I didn't have a garden shed. There was a little alcove place I was able to stick it in, but it still sort of stuck out and a little bit. And then I had my bike there. And by the time that Harry was living in a proper bigger flat, he still didn't claim his bike. So I think much more recently, or in the last few years, where I think Toby suggested the best thing to do with it was to, I'd given Harry the warning that, we weren't gonna. He'd been in my house nearly 20 years, and put the bike outside the railway station, not padlocked, and waited for it to be stolen, and it was stolen. The most saddest thing is that when I kind of came to terms with, I don't think I'm ever going to get back on a bike and go cycling again. We did the same with my bike as well, and that got nicked within about 24 hours as well. So yes, I like to think that somebody somewhere has adopted those bikes. But
we had the same thing happen with an oven. When we left Devizes Road, the oven, the landlord said the oven had more or less had it. Put it out there. We lived lived next to some ne'er-do-wells who had it.
Lights flash, smoke in the air, energy ignites, no time to spare. Crowds alive, feeling it's right. DJ hit it hard, shake the night. Hands up, let the rhythm flow. Electric vibes, we're ready to go. Jump, jump, jump when the beat hits loud. Feel the pulse. Bass pound. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud. Feel the bass boom, make you wanna get down. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud. Strobe lights, colors take flight. Lost in the groove under neon light. Heartbeat racing, let's not slow down. Feel the power as we own this town. Hands up, let the rhythm flow. Electric vibes, we're ready to go. Jump, jump, jump when the beat hits loud. Feel the pulse. Jump, jump, jump. Feel the pulse. Bass pound. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud. Feel the bass boom, make you wanna get down. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud. Feel the bass boom, make you wanna get down. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud. As the night gets deep, the energies rise. Lost in the magic under electric skies. Tomorrow can wait, cause we own tonight. Feel the rush now, hold on tight. Hands up, let the rhythm flow. Electric vibes, we're ready to go. Jump, jump, jump when the beat hits loud. Feel the pulse. Jump, jump, jump. Bass pound. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud. Feel the bass boom, make you wanna get down. Everybody jump high when the beat hits loud.
Okay, we've got 5 words. Talk about as many of them as you like. Recruit, efflux, bus, bag, and shy.
Yeah, I think I'll go for Bus and Shy. Bus-wise, I was beholden to the school bus for 5 years when going to Highbury between 80 and 85. That was my secondary school. Bus 2 it was from Parsonage Green, where David Sprague's used to live, our friend David Sprague's. Literally, it was just outside his town. Yeah, it's a bit of a rough old queue. You know, there's some hard nuts, some people I've got to know, but you know, it was all right. But with that, we it feels such a long time ago now. But when I think about some of my other post school memories, it's actually only a year before after that. But we had several bus drivers. I remember them mainly. But one of them was destined to be my father-in-law, David Tompkins, Tomo. He was a bigger man than he was when I knew him, physically, that is. Yes, he was one of these sort of very level-headed, very friendly, kind of very sensible guy. And yeah, he turned out to be destined to be my father-in-law. I sort of resented the need, you know, kind of the reliance on buses, but I've since sort of embraced them again, because we obviously we use the buses a lot more than we did when we had the car. And there's a 66 which comes up from town, which goes literally just outside my home, just outside the door here. And but yeah, so buses have played a sort of, you know, although I was reliant on them in the bad old days, they did sort of come up trumps in that I married a busman's daughter in the end. So Shy, I think probably apart from Shy Yeti, of course, was me having just left school and having a very idealised take on the dating game. You know, I thought it was going to be a cinch, but I really needed to sort of smarten myself up and be a little bit more fragrant, and keep my eye open as to where, you know, what people were like. I think I always saw myself as a slightly eccentric one, and you can't really have one with it and have the other. So it was a difficult time for me. It was a sort of emergent and very exciting time, but I don't think I didn't really have a role model I could look up to help. I'm not even my sister had left home and got married by then, so I didn't really have anyone to knock me into shape. So Shy-wise, yeah, I mean, it was 1990 before I actually got a girlfriend, and I kind of probably it was also a product of my sort of older parents, you know, who had a very 1950s kind of nice, pretty window of a view of dating, and not a very 1980s one, which probably would have helped me a bit more. So yeah, that's my tool.
I must admit, I didn't know what efflux even meant, so I found that...
that's why I avoided it. I didn't know what it was.
I found that the flowing out of a substance or particle, the same active efflux of sodium from the... I'm sure Troby understands this. So yes, that ruled that one out. Yeah. Recruit, I guess, I've been recruited for the odd job now and again. The odd job? No, not the odd job. The odd job. The job. My jobs I was recruited for. But I don't really want to talk about work, so I won't talk about that. Buses I certainly had a history with, because I had to take the school bus home. I don't think it was ever 100% a school bus. Yeah. It had other people on as well, which was sometimes problematic because kids didn't behave themselves, and there were actual normal humans on the bus as well. When I was in Birmingham, buses were definitely a daily part of life. I can't remember now. It may have been like £30 a month for Freedom of the City pass. And Kerry and I would often... The house that we lived in that was opposite the lake was on a circular bus route. You could literally go all the way around Birmingham. I think to do the whole route might have taken 2 hours. On a rainy Wednesday afternoon, if we had no lectures, the sort of thing you'd do. I'd also do it because I'd noticed one or two interesting potential locations for Sutton Park, and also some canals, because Birmingham has lots of canals, and certain parts of Birmingham I didn't know as well. But yeah, there was sort of, well, there's an interesting bit of woods there. I have to remember to come back to this point, and so the bus was quite helpful for doing location hunting, and obviously I've used London buses a lot over the years. And Nick and I my most recent bus journey, well, no, that's probably not true. I'm sure I've been since. But
oh yes,
our trip to Bournemouth on the bus to see Toby and Lisa in the summer was sort of slightly recreating our trips to Bournemouth back in the early 90s. Yes, quite nostalgic. And as for Shy, well, that's
no-brainer really.
No-brainer. So I probably won't talk about it because other than to say, if I haven't said before, I'm sure I have, Shy Yeti was a profile name that I had on a gay Doctor Who site or site for gay Doctor Who fans, and I felt that I should have a sort of, being a furry person, I should have a furry Doctor Who related monster. And there's only one or two. I could have been the Garm, but he wasn't very well known. So I decided
Shy Yeti has a more of a Shy Garm.
Although somebody said at the time it sounded like Shite Yeti, and I said, well, only if you say it like that, not if you say Shy Yeti, it doesn't sound rude. So yeah, I became Shy Yeti, but then I became Shy Yeti beyond that group, long after I left that group, and he became a fictional character. He became all sorts of things. So I've even been approached in social situations or in pubs by people who have said, well, it makes it sound like lots of people have done it, only once or twice. People have said, oh, you're that Shy Yeti guy. They didn't even know my name, which kind of shows you it shows something. The other thing I probably should talk about, partly because I'm sort of known for collecting them slightly, or bag. I always have a bag. Always had quite a few choices of bags, like for work or for. I was like buying in different bags. The only trouble is with work bags, I'd slowly put I'd need to have some writing materials in my bag to work. Because obviously, unlike you, Nick, who walks to work, I had quite a relatively, I had like an hour or so's commute. There was time to do stuff whilst you were commuting. So I might have a book in my bag, I might have something to write on in my bag. Then slowly over the months, the bag gets more and more stuff in it, to the point where it almost gets so full that you kind of retire the bag, and then start a new bag.
Although I probably have almost as long a journey to work in terms of duration.
Yeah,
I think mine is more mental. I sort of prepare myself a bit more and
you can't
say my prayers, to plan what I'm going to do. But yeah, I mean, if you've got that length of journey to work, it's always a good idea to have something to do. When I was sort of tidying up years later, I'd find bags that had been abandoned for a fresh bag with stuff in, and you go through it and you think, oh, this must be 5 years ago. Ali collects bags tonight, and we've barely got room for them all.
Yeah, I haven't bought any new bags for a long time, but I don't like the idea of getting rid of a bag that isn't dead. If it's not broken or damaged, then it still has a potential.
My mum had a very strong red bag that my mum was very good at sourcing strong bags, and she had a bag that she loaded her stuff in on her fateful last journey to the hospital, which I use frequently now when we're going on holiday or something. It's really lots of space in it.
When I was working in London, sometimes it'd be easier to do what shopping I needed in a Sainsbury's near work and then come back. So I'd come back with maybe a rucksack with my daily stuff in, but then 2 bags of shopping as well. Yeah. I could be quite laden down sometimes when I came back but it was easier than coming home and then going out again. Yeah. I knew I wouldn't really want to go out again. My routine changed quite a lot over the years, depending on who I was seeing, whether I was cooking for Callum and I, whether I was just cooking for myself, whether I was whatever. And I've used a rucksack. I've used the sort of, what do they call them? Those sort of bags that are sort of over the shoulder, sort of like a paper boy would use to deliver papers.
Oh yeah, we've got some, yeah.
Whatever you call those ones. Not quite like that, because I was a paper boy and I did have those sort of bags. But yeah, I've got all sorts of different ones. The last thing I'll say is, when I used to go walking, and I probably said this before, I kind of pride myself, being a country boy, being, you know, when Callum and I used to go for lots of walks, I'd be taking photos and stuff. So I'd always have like plenty of like water with me and stuff to take photos with. But say Callum and I were out in the Surrey Hills or something, we'd go through a village and there'd be a corner shop and I'd be like, oh, we need some milk. So I'd nip in, because I'd probably end up buying 37 other things. And what I liked about our walks was that you'd see all these people dressed up like they were going up the Himalayas with like in spandex with sort of sticks, and what they were doing was walking the Surrey Hills. Whereas I like to curate the image of somebody who's went out shopping and then kind of got distracted and then ended up on a 10-mile hike, because I didn't look like a walker. I looked like I'd taken the wrong turning out of Sainsbury's and ended up in the middle of a field somewhere. Yeah, I think I never saw I never saw other walkers like me who had like 2 bags of shopping on their walk as well as so yeah, Bags and I have
they're very useful. I favour very much the sort of stringy kind of over the shoulders ones. We've had very wet weather recently, and I've sort of, if it's sort of been threatening wet weather but hasn't arrived yet, just as a precaution, I'll take my waterproofs to work, and I'll do them in a sort of like a bag round the shoulders. I find that a bit easier than just carrying it.
We're going to come back to random words later, but I think it might be time just to have a brief, and we'll try and keep it brief, listeners. We might have do a couple of Doctor Who stories, random Doctor Who stories again, and see what the randomizer comes up with. We promise to explain as much detail as we can give to put you in the position if you don't know. So,
and if you're curious at all, they're all on BBC iPlayer.
Yes.
So do you know, if you're what's all that about, and just get yourself onto the iPlayer and download them.
So the story we're going to discuss is the War Games. 10 25-minute episodes starring Patrick Troughton as the Doctor. First broadcast from Saturday, 19th of April, 1969 to Sunday, the 22nd of June, 1969.
Sunday?
Maybe that's a mistake.
I think it might be. I didn't get them went out on Sunday, not until Jodie.
Probably means Saturday. So the very final Patrick Troughton story, the very final black and white story, the very last Jamie and Zoe story, 10 episodes, involves the Doctor going on trial at the end, Time Lords, and I haven't watched it for a long time, but I'm intending to. By the time this comes out, I probably would have seen it again, because now it's all on iPlayer. Some of the stories that I'd have to go and search for, even though they're not that far away. I mean, I'm not as bad as some people you hear about. They seem to have their DVD collection stuck in the roof because their wife/husband does want them cluttering up the house with. I can get to my Doctor Who collection isn't that well ordered like Nick's is, but I can get it. But it is quite nice having it all there on the iPlayer. I want to support that. So War Games is probably one I'll have just rewatched by the time this comes out, or neither of us remember it from the time because we were too young. I wasn't born.
I was 9 months old when the War Games finished. It is the first Doctor Who the first Doctor Who regeneration in my lifetime. But yes, I was a little baby. My sister was watching it as early as Troughton, but I love War Games. It's very long, but then it's an epic. So It keeps changing. The basic premise is these different time zones of the war. And it goes so it can be Roman centurions one episode and First World War the second, and all these aliens behind it. I think it's a neat idea. Philip Maddock as the main baddie, the warlord, is terrifying. I think arguably it's Maddock's best part in Doctor Who. He's a really chilling, kind of still villain. Lots of, I think the end is quite awesome because it's not a happy ending. Although the war zones everybody gets returned to their time zone. I like the fact that in order to resolve the story, the Doctor has to sort of reveal himself to his Time Lords. We're meeting the Time Lords for the first time. We've never heard of them before at this point in the history of the show, and it's by resolving the situation, he kind of gives up his freedom, and there's a price to pay. I rather like that the fact that he has to give it all up in order to rescue everybody, and they do put him on trial, even though he kind of accuses them of just using them, sitting on their backsides with all this power. They sort of say, you've got to do your penance, and they turn him into John Pertwee and send him to Earth for 5 years, 3 years. But I think it's an awesome story. It changes things a little bit, but entirely appropriate way. And it's a very sad scene where the Doctor has to say goodbye to his companions because it's nobody's choice. It wasn't the Doctor's choice. It wasn't their choice. It's almost as if the big intergalactic grown-ups have come along and they said, "No, you've got to stop playing now. It's time to come in." And I think that's extremely effective and very nice production as well, and good baddies and. Yeah, I mean, it takes an awful long time to watch, but it's a bloody good story. Yeah, Travis very good.
Yeah. Next up, we've got one of the most famous Doctor Who stories ever, Genesis of the Daleks. 6 25-minute episodes starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, first broadcast from Saturday 8th of March 1975 to Saturday 12th of April 1975. I was born, but I didn't see it at the time. It is about, when we first meet Davros. It's a sort of
creator of the Daleks.
Yeah, creator of the Daleks. Probably before I saw it, it was released as a record, a 6-part story. Sort of, I don't know. It can't be more than 45 minutes by the time it had been put on a record. But I think I listened to it on a tape. But even so, it was very cut down. It's one that at different times has been voted the best Doctor Who story ever. And I find, probably because I was exposed to it a lot early on, it was also repeated a number of times. Am I right in saying that at one point in the 90s they said, we're going to show all the colour stories, and they showed about 2 Pertwees, and then they jumped.
They went to Pertwee, they showed Spearhead, Silurians, and then they went straight to Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah.
It was a shambles really in terms of. I mean, it was nice to see those repeats, but they lost. It was BBC Two, tea time, and then they lost all. I think with one of the Genesis episodes, I remember you and I were on holiday at the time, and we watched it in our hotel room, which was rather fun.
It's not that I don't like the story, but it's not my favourite Dalek story. It's not even in my top 3 Dalek stories, let alone being the best Doctor Who story ever. A 2-episode, is there a structure, a 2-4 structure or 4-2 structure? I've never really been aware of it so much with Genesis.
No, I don't think there is so much, which is odd because Robert Holmesy believed in chopping up the 6-episode format. But then, no, I think he did commission it. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't got that. I suppose in the latter two episodes concentrates more on the bunker below after the
It could be.
No, there isn't. You can tell with talons and seeds that there's a distinct structural change, which kind of changes the pace of the thing.
I mean,
with this one, not quite.
I mean, I enjoy the Sarah, Harry, and because Sarah Jane Smith is the companion along with Harry Sullivan at this point. This is Tom Baker's first season. So there's no problem with any of the main characters. No problem with anything really. It's not a problematic show in any way for me. It's just that generally I'm a little bit not necessarily so drawn in by nostalgia. Oh no, I can be drawn in by nostalgia, but at least two of my favourite stories aren't stories I have got any nostalgia for. So some people are perhaps majorly drawn in by nostalgia, whereas but I can be a bit of a sort of, if a story from before my time is very good, as Green Death and Seeds of Doom are, then I'm quite happy to go, okay, they're my favourite stories. But I'm born a little bit late. I just missed out on seeing some really good stories first time round. So
by contrast, I remember Genesis when it first started. That season, I think when Tom Baker took over, I kind of took the initiative to. I'm interested enough to actually watch all these series all the way through, because I was well aware that I was dipping in and out of ongoing serials, and so I thought, and I actually took an interest in the stories, the cliffhangers, even the writers. That first season with Tom, and Genesis, I would have seen. I did see it when it was first went out. And Davros, the thing about Davros was as a child, I wasn't particularly horrified by Davros, because I simply assumed that I was called in the man half a Dalek. Because he had that Dalek base to his wheelchair, I assumed that if you took off every Dalek, that's what that's what he looked like. I just assumed it was a nude Dalek. And which is why, even though his appearance is as horrific as the shriveled bodies in Planet of Evil a few months later, because I'd seen you see the characters as they were before they were shriveled, I found that much more horrifying than Davros. I have to say, I think I like Genesis. It's a very good production, quite exciting, and Davros, but I think it owes a lot to Davros and his psychic Nida. I think if you didn't have them in the story, it would be just another Terry Nation runaround. It's they that give the story balls, and which is why I've never been. Although I like it, like yourself, I like it, but I don't think it's quite up there with the greats like people say it is. I think it's too. There's also the Nazi thing. And it's okay to parallel Nazis, but they actually dressed as Nazis. There was no pretense about it, or sort of that wasn't that wasn't an element that I think actually. I think it was too a bit in your face. It should have been the only Davros story as far as I'm concerned, because he was excellent character in that, but he comes to a sticky end at the end, which is a nice and satisfying conclusion. But I remember the repeats that Christmas 75. I remember the compilation repeat. But going back to, whilst it's in my mind, going back to what you said about the record, I actually bought the record in 1979 when it came out. There was very much an interest there, because we'd just seen the sequel, and I was very excited because also I remember Genesis. So I hijacked the record player, and Christmas 79 I played it to death. My main memory of the cover, apart from the nice artwork, was my fingerprints all over it. I'm just, and even if the family were there, or Genesis and Daleks. Christmas Eve, the Saturday I bought it, the Sunday of the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, there was no stopping me, because it was the first bit of professional audio Doctor Who that I'd had, that I owned. But I think I have to say, in terms of the pace, it's nowhere near as good because there's a lot of Terry Nation tropes. They're better used than perhaps previously, but thanks to a strong script editor. But I have to say that it goes to show how much padding there is in it, because as it's been noted, the record tells the story in 60 minutes flat. That's a six-parter in 60 minutes, you know. So effectively, it tells the story as a two-parter, and none of the characters are missing. None of the major events are missed out, and so it needed a bit of tightening. But so very good story, and I'm happy to watch it at any time, but not the best Doctor Who story ever. There's far, far, far more contenders. Lastly, going back to what you said about nostalgia, I think I can be nostalgic about a story without it being in my top favourite. I mean, I'm granted my favourite story is City of Death, and I am nostalgic about it only because I was in that era. But then my favourite Pat Troughton story is Enemy of the World, which I didn't even see until 10 years ago, and I would have been around. It was just. It was about 9 months before I was born, so it's the sort of story I was conceived during. So I've got, I am and I'm not. You know, I can be not. You know, the early Bakers I'm very nostalgic about because they were my sort of emergence even before I knew there was any fandom, or I was only vaguely aware of previous Doctors until I got the Doctor Who Monster book in 1975. I'd not set eyes on the previous two before Pertwee, so that was a fascinating world to discover. But yeah, Genesis, it's all right, but it's not quite the supreme master that people seem to think it is.
Thank you. That is what I wanted to know.
Got to be done.
might be sorry. That's a Genesis of the Daleks quote there, listeners.
And that's the other thing. It is extremely quotable.
Yeah. Hi listeners, we're at the Red Lion recording studios, as I call it. I'm here with Levi. Hi Levi.
Hello listeners.
We've just been for a nice lunch at the Wildwood, and we had pizza and I had steak, and we've been chatting there. But we've come from one meal to another. We're here for afternoon tea. You were with us last time when we came for afternoon tea, but we've come back for more cakes and more sandwiches. So we're just drinking our tea and waiting for our sandwiches. So. But since we last spoke to him, Levi's been to Taiwan. Taiwan? Yeah, it's a long way. It's a long way to walk. Your legs must be very tired.
Oh, my legs, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. But so I've got to ask Levi. Levi's going to tell us a bit about Taiwan. He came back and bought me lots of goodies as well, which is very exciting, including a new baseball cap, which saved quite an embarrassing scene earlier. I just grabbed my baseball cap when I left my parents' house, and I kind of not taken into consideration that it's a black cap and it has a lot of cat hair on it from Dealey. Dealey is almost there up on the hat. You can almost see him there. And I noticed Levi gave me one of the baseball caps, and I tried it on, and then I realised how hairy the other hat was. So I'm able to wear a nice, fresh, clean baseball cap. But anyway, Levi, how was your Taiwan trip? Tell us all about it.
Oh, it was lovely. I actually had a really, really, really nice time. I managed to visit a lot of places, experience a new culture. I mean, had lots and lots and lots of food. I mean,
you were going for a graduation party, weren't you?
Yeah, so it was my best friend. She was graduating, and she wanted me to come and visit. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm definitely coming and visit you. So, and I just turned into like a reunion / vacation.
You were there for nearly 3 weeks or something?
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks and 3 days, or 2 weeks and 4 days, I can't recall. But then again, you could call it like 3 weeks because it took me like 25 hours to get there and about 18 hours to get back. So.
And you stopped in Shanghai, was that right?
Yeah, so I stopped in Shanghai and visited an ex-friend of mine who actually graduated from university in China as well.
And you were showing me lots of pictures of, well, like, is it like a midnight food market or something?
Street markets. Taipei is notorious for its street market, and we went and visited the street market. It was so beautiful. I mean, it was just like experience that, you know, if you have to it's something you just have to be there to experience. It's beautiful.
The photos you showed me, there's so many lights as well, and very, very vibrant, and looked nice.
It was fun. It was, I mean, as I said, I am just eating, like, there's every single food store, I was like, at every single food store buying something to eat.
Side please. Yeah.
Thank you.
It looked amazing. And what else did you see other than the graduation and the food? Did you go and see any sites? Like, you mentioned temples.
Yeah, I've been to like several temples.
Thank you very much.
Shall I just pop on the end now?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Enjoy.
Great. Thank you.
That looks lovely.
It's very close to you.
So yeah, I've been to different temples, and I mean, I went to one of the islands I was close to. Went to an off island. What do they call them? Is it like it's a part of it, but it's not. It's like an island that's a part of Taiwan.
Archipelago. No. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I don't know what. I've gone blank.
So it was like so I took like a boat to get there, and then we went to the beach, and it was just, I don't know, it was a fun experience, you know.
And you stayed with your friend some of the week, but then you stayed in the hotel. But it turned out the hotel had a reputation that you didn't realise.
Oh yeah, it was. It was very scandalous.
The sort of hotel where businessmen meet.
Where businessmen
ladies
do
of the
their
night.
after-work activities. So it was like, can you imagine waking up and just hearing people screaming for help? So, yeah,
but in a sexy way. The sights and sounds, and is there anything else we need to know about Taiwan?
It's. I mean, what can I say? It was a nice experience. There's not that many bad experiences. I mean, the food was great. I mean, I loved the food. I could go on and on about how great the food was. The people were nice. I mean, there were a lot of friendly people. The scenery, especially when you go to the city, it was. I mean, just a lot of nice tall buildings. It was just very modern. It looked. There was at one point I went and get shaved ice, and we had this little robot thin kind of creature which actually saved us. So that was a fun experience.
And how did did you survive the flight? As far as did you sleep?
I didn't sleep at all. By the time I got back, I think I kind of passed out on the train back to Salisbury.
Was there? I mean, you're quite a tall guy. Was there enough leg room.
So what I had to do was that I paid a little extra to get like some seats with a little extra room space. But it wasn't that much money. I think I spent about 50 quid extra to get, on all figures. It was four separate flights, so it was cheap.
And you said that though by the end of the trip, although you'd enjoyed it, you were getting a bit homesick for Salisbury. For goodness sake.
Can you believe that? I was actually homesick.
That shows how much you've acclimatised to Salisbury.
It's like someone who's been in an abusive relationship, whereas he's like
Salisbury is the abusive relationship.
It's like, oh my god, I miss the abuse. I miss
Salisbury.
I miss Salisbury. So.
Salisbury gets better at least once a month when I'm here.
Exactly. That's the only time it's actually worth staying. But I had, by the third week I was just, I just want to go home. I'm just tired of all that partying and all that fun. I just want to come back to
too much fun. Too much fun. You want some less fun. And listeners, it's nearly a year now since we first met Levi. I met Levi over a year, but it's nearly a year. Nearly a year since we.
I was introduced to the podcast.
Yes, yeah. And I told you he wouldn't leave you. He's been back virtually every month. So he's still here.
I'm still here.
He's.
I'm not going anywhere.
No, we've kind of adapted in the last year to be doing these sort of little 10-minute chats, rather than having a show where it's just the one guest. We kind of may have different, or maybe one story, one adventure involving Yeti Uncle John doing something dreadful, and then we have a little chat in between. So we've kind of, so it's fitted in quite well with me, having these little updates but you're learning to drive, or you've got your provisional license.
I've got my provisional license. I am writing the exam at the end of this month, and just the theory. And hopefully I could book the practical before it gets dark too early, because I have a fear of driving at night. So hopefully by October.
And then we might get to go on adventures with Levi in his car.
We're going to go on adventures. We're going to go on road trips.
Yeah, because at least there's one thing I can do is, having lived around here such a long time, I can direct. Can give directions to a certain extent, or at least know if we're going in the wrong direction, or have ideas where we could go, or houses we could visit, or interesting old houses, or sites, or beaches, or something, anything. Who knows? That Yeti and Levi road trip.
It could be like.
Or it could be Levi and Yeti. I don't mind which way round.
We could do a carpool karaoke.
Yeah. Singing my AI songs.
Singing
about Dealey the werecat, and Levi and Luca the time-travelling bear. And anyway, well, we've got to tuck into we've got sandwiches here. I do want to tell you what Levi's bought me, but I don't want to open up anything too much and end up breaking the bag or losing something. But there were. I know there's another baseball cap. There's other bits. It was a pretty heavy bag, listeners. We've done very well.
I'm not going to tell him what's in it. He has to figure it out for himself.
I'm going to. I might be able to do a quick unboxing, and when I get back home, I'm just worried about losing something. But it's a good stash, listeners. We've done very well. But he said it's very good. He keeps the old Yeti very happy. I'm buying him presents. Thank you for my lovely treasures. And yes, I'll do an unboxing later. And but yes, before we go, yes, we've got sandwiches, little finger sandwiches. They're not made of fingers, don't we? That's what they call them. I don't think they're made of fat fingers. And there's little cakes, and then there's a cream tea at the top. And I'm drinking tea, and Levi's drinking coffee. we might get. I might get a top up. Actually, I'm enjoying my tea. So. Anyway, I'm keen to get started on the sandwiches. So
yeah, we're gonna get started on the sandwich, but I'll start with the cakes.
Yeah. And yes, well, we'll see you again next month. And next month's an important month because it's Levi birthday month. So, so listeners, get ready with your birthday cards, your songs for Levi. We're hoping to meet, but we're not sure how to make it any different. I mean, it's raining today in the middle of July, so yeah, the summer isn't really encouraging us to go outside.
It's not. Been. The summer has not been summery.
No, wasn't that great last year, let alone this year. But, anyway, we'll speak to Levi again soon. Levi, say goodbye to the listeners.
Goodbye, listeners. I look to be back next month.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. I'll do the unboxing when I get home. Hi listeners, I promised I'd unbox the gift that Levi brought me back from Taiwan. Now, I've got a nice Taiwan baseball cap, which I've been wearing since lunchtime, but I barely looked at it because I've been wearing it. It has Taiwan in different coloured letters: red, sort of orange, purple, sort of cyan blue, a sort of light blue, and a sort of maybe a pinky colour. But there's another baseball cap. This one has one of the temples of Taiwan on. At least I think it's one of the temples. So that's nice. Then I've got like a noodle dish. I can't tell much about it because it's not in English, but it's cool. So I'm sure I shall eat that later. Maybe I put all these things into a shoebox, so maybe I'll take the shoebox out of the bag. There we go. There's some squidgy things, a biscuity thing, not sure what that is, some crisps, maybe prawn crisps or squid crisps. They've all got very nice designs on the packaging. There's this might be a ramen dish. Pork instant noodle. It does actually say. The cute postcard of Taiwan. That's really nice. Some sort of sweet mixed mochi. I presume these are like. I presume that's sweet. That's very nice. Something else in a wrapper. I can't tell what that is. Seaweed flavour crisps. Something in a box. Come back to that. Something that looks like some nuts, maybe. Little candies, a bit like little fruit candies. Something that looks like nougat. Something else that's squidgy in a wrapper. I'll have to report on something else in a big box. Tai Yang Tang Lao Dian Sun Cake. Ooh. Hello. Ooh. 1, 2 different cakey, biscuity things. All very fascinating. That's that. Levi really has spoilt me. He said, what would you like me to bring you back? And I said, oh, you know, just anything, a key ring or like my birthday or Christmas. I'm trying to put this. And then there's a key ring. It has a little, it's got a little bell on it. And then there's a box, but I can't see what it is. Oh, it's like a bobblehead, I think, of a laughing dog. Oh, that's very cute. Might have room for him on the table where I work with my parents, because thank you, Levi. Lots of exciting things, and I still don't know what half of them are. Just unboxing them is only half the story. I'll have to come back and tell you what they're like when I taste them. So I'll see if I can do that. Yes, so thanks again to Levi for speaking to us today, and for bringing back all these lovely gifts for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That might be it for Doctor Who this episode, but we are now going to move on to random questions. The first one that comes up, I think listeners may know the answers to this, but why not?
We're so predictable.
Well, you see what I mean. What are your favourite TV shows? What if you had to list half a dozen? What are your half a dozen favourites?
Ooh, do you want to go first?
Doctor Who, The Avengers, Sons and Daughters, Neighbours, Home and Away, Prisoner, Dark Shadows, Bergerac, yeah, and there are lots of others, but those are the first. That's more than half a dozen.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, you know, like something comparable to what I did.
Yeah. In all fairness, it's got to be Doctor Who. No other programme has ever had so much influence on me and given me more enjoyment, to be honest. I still support it to this day. I think a lot has been said about Doctor Who, so I won't. But happy 60th as we speak. A lot of the shows I've been introduced to, or either seen initially or been introduced to. Doomwatch is a very strong contender. I think I really like that. Blake 7, which I watched from the start. I've always been a good, that's endured nicely. Sapphire and Steel is an extremely strong series. Raffles, I always enjoyed that. A completely different genre. Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin. That was good. I think that's my favourite sitcom ever. Even though I'm not a huge sitcom person, but weird. Callan I've discovered in the last 20 odd years, and that is absolutely superb. I like spy things. assassination one I'm going to throw in there. It might be Wobbly Grounds, because there might be some other... The changes, that's got to be up there. Armchair Thriller, of course. That'll be my Armchair Thriller. Yeah.
Well, what I find is that I would rather see a new episode of a show than go back to... Well, let me give you an example. So they recently put a lot of old Neighbours episodes up digitally to watch, and the ones that I gravitated for weren't the famous ones with Kylie and Jason that I saw as a kid. They were ones that I'd heard about from, say, the noughties, but never seen. I'm more interested in, especially with a long show like that. I was the same with Sons and Daughters. There was like 200 or 300 episodes that I'd never seen, maybe more actually. And I was very excited to see episodes I'd never seen of a show that had existed for years. Also, recently I started watching some Simpsons, and suddenly found I had 35 years worth of Simpsons, 34 years worth of Simpsons on Disney Plus. Did I go back to episodes from the start? No, of course I didn't. I don't want to see episodes I've seen, even if I haven't seen them for 30 years. I wanted to see, is 2022 Simpsons still funny? And if anything, if I watch more, well, I was glad to find that, yes, I still enjoyed it. But if I watch any more, I'll probably watch it backwards, at least the seasons backwards, because it's difficult when there's so much. Where do you start? Well, I want to start with something I've never seen before, considering there was so much I haven't seen. So I probably only watched it on and off for the first 5-10 years. So there's a lot to explore. You know, a lot of people say with that Neighbours example, we're diving back into the late 80s episodes, and I was like, well, I wouldn't be against seeing them again, but Neighbours got a bit more nutty. It's got more nutty as time has gone on. So a bit like Sons and Daughters, a bit like most of these Australian soaps I like, the more escapist they get, the more bizarre, the better for me. So Kylie and Jason Neighbours is quite, it's okay, but it's kind of quite, yeah, it's quite a bit like people who like watching old Coronation Street, and they're just quite happy to see 3 old ladies talking for 25 minutes over a cup of tea. Whereas the last time I saw and liked Coronation Street, there was a gangster, and there were people being blown up, and people being kidnapped, and twists and turns and double crossings, and I was like, yeah, I like Coronation Street like this. Tea and Old Ladies is overrated. Of course, there was a time when Tea and Old Ladies was my paradise, but only if they were murderous. They were never murderous. They were very rarely murderous.
Still have a soft spot for Tea and Old Ladies.
Yeah, well, you know, there's still a place for it, but see if we can get another question. What is your favourite day of the week?
Ooh. Well, it's going to be a weekend one. I've got a soft spot for Saturday, but I think, in all honesty, it's got to be Sunday, mainly because for the last 10 years or so, we've had a winning formula. It's nice to be able to have a day when you look forward to absolutely every aspect. And our Sundays these days, though some might find it predictable, we get up, we have a larger breakfast than usual, because it's the only day of the week we have breakfast together. Go to church and see our friends afterwards. Pub lunch, lovely roast lunch at the pub, where we see our friends there. Go home, have a good nap. I usually get up a bit earlier than Ali and sort of have a look at Facebook, and there's some project-y kind of stuff I need to do. It's a good sort of little window. Then we settle down 9 o'clock, sit on the sofa together, open a bottle of wine, and watch a DVD. And when, you know, I never really ask for anything else rather than, because it's just all of those things I enjoy very much. So I think, as it stands these days, definitely. I mean, although Saturdays, I always enjoy Saturdays. If it's works a lot less pressurised on the Saturday, because there's no phone or no email, so you can just get on with it. Saturdays like this enjoyable for a completely different reason, because we're hanging out with a friend and going out this evening. And, you know, there's much to enjoy. But yeah, I think for a consistency point of view, I think Sunday's my favourite.
Probably would have said Saturday, Friday, if it was an exciting Friday, or like back in the noughties when I maybe might have been going to a club in the evening. No, I'm not working. It's probably still Saturday, but every day there might be a hospital appointment or there might be something I'm not looking forward to, but I am more a gentleman of leisure. So Dealey and I have a good read in the morning, and
Do you read with you?
Oh yes, he reads to me.
Experience cats don't like you reading. They push it aside and say, no.
Well, sometimes. Look at me. I think if I had a book in my hand, he might definitely do. Sometimes he puts his paw on the screen.
I bet he does.
And
I think he's trying to tell you. I think folk. Junior year, when I was writing my diary, junior year of my own cat, he used to mess around. Or if I'm reading a book, he used to push his head between me and the book, or push his head between me and the diary. And if I was writing, as I was moving the pen, as I was writing, he used to stick his cheek on the end of the pen.
If you won £1 million in the lottery or somewhere, what would you do?
Well, no point in doing the writing because nobody bloody reads it. Film-wise, I might do a film project and persuade a certain person who hasn't done a lot recently that I've made a few films with that they might be a good idea if he actually brought his equipment and did it. Less selfishly, I'd probably try and sort of get involved in a homeless charity. Closer to home, I'd buy us a really groovy bungalow, very near, maybe even round the corner, or over there or over there. I wouldn't leave Salisbury. It'd definitely be a bungalow in Salisbury. I'd invest a bit. Very much I doubt I'd give up work because I might do different sort of work. I might go part time, but I believe in structure, so I probably want to do something. Unless I particularly wanted to, I probably wouldn't go abroad because foreign travel doesn't really appeal. But yeah, I might try and get somebody a bit more interested in sort of writing. But yeah, I might go part time and really lay into the right. Try to get an agent or something, but nothing too shattering.
Yeah, I might not change much what I'm doing, except maybe not exactly a butler, but have an assistant who can do some of the things that it's harder for me to do, like an employee or something who would go and do. It depends whether if I was living by myself or if I was. Some of the physical things it's a struggle to do. I might just pay to have a sort of person on hand to help out. But that person might even be somebody who's a friend, because I've had one or two people say, "Well, I can come be your flatmate and help you." But I'm not sure mixing friendship with that sort of thing is always good, because in reality it's probably not so much fun. Whereas if you're trained to do that sort of thing, or a proper personal assistant or whatever.
Big questions were asked when Ali had a stroke 9 years ago. Can't your husband sort of do all your personal care? She said, no. There's a totally different relationship with care and a husband. They can. I care for. I do some things for her, but some of the personal care, it's she wouldn't want me to do those things. I'm totally behind her on that. So yeah, it does. Probably an outsider would probably be a better bet. There wouldn't be quite so much sort of.
I still want to go on a cruise and things like that, but I have to think a bit more sort of how much energy that's going to take out of me and what the steps are to do it, and sort of have looked into all of that, not be surprised by anything. So I can't sort of be quite so spontaneous.
Synth waves crash on city streets. Echoes of the past rewind and repeat. We chase the sound in midnight scenes. Lights over distant memories. It's been oh so many dreams. So many dreams, fading like the beams. We've danced so many nights, lost within the lights, pulsing through our veins. We're the echoes, never ending. As the beat drops, we're weightless in time. Colors blur, futures yet to find. With every step we reclaim the night. Under the glow, everything feels right. It's been oh so many dreams. So many dreams, fading like the beams. We've danced so many nights, lost within the lights, pulsing through our veins. We're the echoes, never ending. We're the echoes, never ending. Voices in the dark, timeless blending. Flashing signs, secrets they confide. In this electric heart, nowhere to hide. Through the static, we hear the call. In this realm together, we'll never fall. Circuit threads weave through this maze. In a digital haze, we find new ways. Vapor trails in the night we chase. Reflections of a future in this space. It's been oh so many dreams. So many dreams, fading like the beams. We dance so many nights, lost within the lights, pulsing through our veins. We're the echoes, never ending.
I think we're almost running out of time, but maybe we'll do one more word and then we'll say goodbye and then do a couple of random questions right at the end. So let's see. We've got swim, sniff, vein, suffer or organise.
Swim, I think I'm going to go for. I've never actually learned to swim. It's never worked for me. I've never really had as much confidence in the water as I would have liked to have done. There were several during the sort of late junior school and some of the senior school times. We did have a swimming. I think we did have visits to the swimming bath that used to be in the behind Bourne Avenue at Salisbury, and that was interesting. And there was a few times when I went there socially, and even though I couldn't swim, I'd sort of just mess around in the water with my school friends. And there was, I think, my most enjoyable swim but not swim experience is we had a pool at Harnham Junior School, and you could get a pass in the summer holidays. I've still got mine too. And you can come along and you can have a swim for as long as you like. I think, was it an hour? I can't remember if there was a set time or not, but you could actually come along and swim. I could swim with those, those little plastic polystyrene things. I could swim with that, but I couldn't swim on my own. And it never. There's not been another attempt since I was since I was sort of like in the fourth year or something. But I've enjoyed messing around in the water, but I've never felt confident enough to do it. There was also, I can remember a time when the Salisbury, where the power station is now in the central car park, I remember there used to be a swimming pool, outdoor swimming pool there, and I think it must have closed down by the mid-70s. And I remember my sister going to that. So that was quite an interesting one, because it's a great big communal one, and everybody just. But I don't think it was heated, so it must have been freezing. But yeah, swimming has eluded me. I would have liked to have had the confidence, but
I did like swimming, although I didn't like doing Cub Scout swimming, which was just doing very boring sort of lengths round and round and round. I had to turn that into a Doctor Who adventure in my head.
Yes, that was that. And I have to say, there was always something creative going on when we were in the pool at Harnham. We had stories, we had series, there was always something going on.
Around the time that I was doing the Cub Scouts swimming was when Warriors of the Deep, the Doctor Who story, had been shown, which was set on an underwater base. I just imagined that base being moth-blooded, having to come and get in and out of the water. And we sort of often went on holiday to places with pools. I remember being in Greece and before my brother was even around, and certainly learning to be with armbands and stuff. I haven't swum so much recently, and sometimes people have said, or doctors have said, "Oh, it'd be good if you could go swimming." Like the pool suddenly materialises in front of you. People who don't have cars really seem to understand that, or they just presume you must have a car or something, and can suddenly get yourself to the swimming pool. There's so many questions like, well, is it safe if I've got rheumatism to go into a swimming pool without anyone knowing that I may have an issue? If you could go to a pool and you were the only one, or there are very few people or other people who are suffering with the same thing, maybe also, there isn't a pool that close to me. They're closing the pool down in Woking, I believe, because of all of the mismanagement by the council. Yeah. And they've bankrupted the area, so they've had to close down amenities like that. So it's all very well for someone to. So ideas about going more recently, I've kind of had to sort of put on ice for the moment. Although I've had one or two people say, "Well, I'll go with you," but again, even then, they don't have cars to get me there. I can well see myself being exhausted by the time I even get to the pool, let alone get in it. Yeah. On a more happier note, I've swum in the sea. I can think of swimming in the sea in Brighton with Harry, although Harry was, I think he was studying for something, and I had to sort of, "Come out now, Paul, I want to go do something else." I'm enjoying it in the sea. I also swam in Nice. I remember having a conversation with, I think that might have been with Harry being around as well. Some guy started chatting to me, and I remember having this conversation in Nice. You often bump into weird sort of people who are also swimming, who would just be floating around. I think the last time I swam in the sea was at Broadstairs in about 2012. And my two friends, it was really quite a hot day, and I decided to swim with my t-shirt on because I was worried about getting sunburn. And sure enough, the other two got sunburn, and I didn't because I...
That's got a good idea, actually, swimming, you think?
Yeah, in 1990, I went to a water splash park in Portugal, and got very sunburnt, and even had sort of hallucinatory dreams, and that's also when I first saw Space 1999 and Sons and Daughters for the first time on that, because I had a day where I was kind of recovering, and I was sitting watching the TV, and that's when I first saw those shows on whatever channel it was over there. But yeah, I think it's the trouble, like those water splash parks. You think, well, I'm in the water all the time, but yeah, if the sun's coming down on you, the water doesn't really stop you getting sunburn. But the other, I'm not going to talk about it in any great detail, but there was one other word, sniff. Sniff was the name of a cat that used to come to my flat when I lived in Woking before I got Dealey. He was a neighbour's cat, and we found out he was called Sniff. He used to sneeze quite a bit, but they had these little sort of like cat collars with a little sort of, it looked like it was a little tiny thing you could unscrew.
That's right.
And inside it had I don't know if it had a phone number or presumably it was if Sniff had got lost, but I also had his name, and that's how I found out. I think he had a sister. I'm not sure she was ever friendly enough to let us undo her thing, but she was pretty much.
That sounded so wrong.
She was pretty. She looked like she was a girl. Sniff was Sniff I used to have a photo of in the bathroom.
I remember that very well. I used to say, because it's a picture of him stretched.
Yeah,
it looked like he'd been staked out.
He's on lots of. I presume he's on lots of episodes of Sutton Park, or at least some, which is nice to know. I mean, he'll be long gone by now, but yeah.
Same as Junior. I mean, Junior, my own Ginger and White Cat in the 80s and 90s. He would have done. I think he appears in a few Sutton Parks.
Yeah. Yeah. One day we came back from holiday. We didn't really know the owners. We knew roughly what flat he went into, but they must have moved out and
just left the poor little creature.
Well, no, the opposite. They just left, so we never got to say goodbye to him. We didn't know he was going.
Oh, I see. They took Sniff with him.
They took them with him. It's just we didn't know that he was going, so we never got to say goodbye.
I remember you saying, him and Callum, it was like a little family unit.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was almost more with Dealey when I was kind of dating people and spending most of my week in London. They bonded. Anytime that Callum comes back to visit, Dealey's very pleased to see him. So anyway, I think that's all we've got time for, except for a couple of questions right at the end. So yeah, that has been another random word episode, random question episode, random Doctor Who episode. But
everything's random.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Nick. Thanks so much, listeners. We'll do it again soon. You take care, and we've got a couple of questions for you at the end. Well, a couple of questions for us, and
yeah, not you.
You can answer if you like, but send in your messages, send in your comments, but send in your answers to the words and stuff. If you'd like to, you're always welcome. All right, take care. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye. Let's just do 2 questions. I'm sure this is all about board. What are 3 websites that you visit every day?
Right. Does that include social media?
Yeah, it can do.
Yeah. I would say Facebook. Twitter, I can't get Twitter on my phone, so I have to rely on my laptop to do Twitter. YouTube, which since COVID, I think I probably embraced YouTube and its content's a lot more, and I've got my own channel as well on YouTube. Amazon probably, possibly Amazon. Yeah, I think those are 3. But maybe not every day with Amazon, and maybe not every day with Twitter. But Facebook, I certainly would check in with every day.
Because my sister will message me more on there, and there's a few. Either WhatsApp. I suppose WhatsApp is more of an application rather than a website, isn't it? It's not really a website per se. Yeah, I think there's nothing too remarkable there, I'm afraid.
I'd probably do very much the same, but I'm not going to use those because you said them. So I get away with saying yes. I definitely use Libsyn, which is where all the sort of my main podcast hosts, not my only podcast hosts. I've got more than I need really, but because I have them, I kind of loathe to get rid of one in case something affects somebody else. But I think I might have to come to the stage where one or two of I really need one host. If it comes down to paying money, I should really cut the ones that aren't the most important. But it's a bit of a decision. So Libsyn. Even if I'm not doing a podcast every day, I'm probably checking the statistics to see if there's been a change in downloads. Blogger, I probably use to a certain extent every day, and that's been a site I've used for like 21 or 2 years. I only post once a month these days, mostly once a month.
Never caught on with blogging. I never quite got it.
But I mean, I use it the way I want to use it, not necessarily the way that blogs were supposed to be. And if you looked across the years, my blog has sort of changed and adapted from being about the poetry to being sort of a news place for what I was up to, or creative stuff. I've always used it as not talking about personal stuff or always talking about what I'm doing creatively. I'll put it like when I did the book launches, that's where the photos would go. And at the moment, I just do a post every month about what the episodes have come out during that month, with the links to them. Some of the formatting issues on Blogger can drive you crazy. It can be a bit. You can only do so much. It still gets used for me, and I'm always tweaking it a little bit or just adding a bit. I must probably be on there every day. I'll just say for my third one, just generally social media. I'm definitely on there every day. Even tried one or two of the new ones, but they've not really taken off. I kind of the demise of Twitter has sort of been slightly exaggerated. I sort of got a couple of alternatives just in case.
Twitter is something I can take or leave, to be honest. I've finally kind of I had about 3 abortive attempts to get into it, and I thought, well, this is great. Not even my wife's talking to me, but I don't actually use it all that much. But after 2 abortive attempts, I've kind of gone back on. I've got a situation where I've got 2 consecutive accounts, and I can't delete one without creating yet another one. I'm in a bit of a fix there because I've got 2 me's floating out in the cosmos, and whenever I try to log in, it creates a new account. So,
I don't know what's going on there. Blame which guy? What's his name? I can't even think of his name. That's how famous he is.
I've noticed that I've put a few personal things up there, and nobody's taken a blind bit of notice. So sort of TV kind of things that they're interested in.
The trouble is with all these social media things, it depends on how many people you follow. It'd be quite easy if you follow 1,000 people or 2,000 people, then they're not necessarily going to see your post unless they go and look for it. But they can't go and look at 2,000 people's.
No, I mean
it's different.
I only follow about.
And some
under 30.
I think that's quite low compared to a lot of people, I think. And the thing with Facebook, you can, unless you go and search for people, their posts can go missing and then suddenly pop up a week later, and you think, oh well, why didn't I see?
It's really good, and the algorithms are all funny on Facebook, because there's quite a few friends who I've got on there that are dear friends, and they never even wish me a happy birthday because they haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, some days I'm reminded of people's, but it's more the people I don't know as well. Sometimes I'm reminded, and sometimes I'm reminded every other day, and I think, Then why did it miss a day?
This is going off in a bit of a tangent. What's weird is I've had a couple of people die on me. There's also a loved one will put something, this is, and Jenny, oh, that's nice. There was one where Coralie, who was at school with Keith, I used to work with them. I knew she was dying, but we went on a nice beach trip together, and it's only when I looked closer I realised she was actually dead. I think she it was kind of, and somebody I used to work with died, and they put there. I didn't even know she was ill. So that was. There's been a couple of shocks, and I think also I had mixed feelings about, because my mum was still on there, and she's still on there to this day, and of course she died 5 years ago, and I think whenever there was birthday coming up or whatever, I got extremely sad about seeing her there, and when I came off completely. I started again, I don't know, like a couple of years ago, and almost as if, because it was making me too sad seeing her there, and now I kind of regretted I've done that. So neither Jen or I have shown any interest in actually taking her off, because I think it's quite, mixed feelings sometimes. Yeah, I don't know what entirely I feel about that. I think as a legacy thing, it's quite a nice thing to keep them on. But
I gotta go now! Bye!
I want to go with you!
Gotta go! Bye!
Goodbye, goodbye,
Goodbye. Yes, goodbye.
Wow. Really? No kidding.
Thank you, darling. And you too. Bye.
This show is part of the Pride 48 network. Find more shows over at pride48.com.
Oh dear. What's going on now? Oh, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
Let's go.
I have a voice. I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice. We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UnivazPods.net.
That is so cringe, oh my god.
You're a man of culture as well.
One more question. If you could meet anyone in history, past or present, who would it be?
just one person.
Oh, you can say one or two, that's fine.
I'm not sure. I think probably my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, because I'd heard a lot about him, and Mum always used to say temperamentally I was a bit like him, and of course he was a very successful man and quite a character. So yes, I'd like to go. And restricting it to one, I just as like to have met my grandmother. So the grandparents, I knew one set of grandparents, but knew that Jen or I knew the other. My mum's parents both died when she was 29, so neither Jen or I met her. So yeah, I think family, I keep it in the family. I wouldn't want to be Henry VIII or somebody who's mega famous. I'd actually want to meet someone who had a personal connection with me.
One of mine would be my maternal grandfather as well, because my mum always says such nice things about him, and they were very close. So I think, he probably would have been a good granddad. Not saying that the other one wouldn't, but I particularly I don't hear much about the other one. I don't hear much about my paternal grandfather as to whether he was a nice person. My dad never really speaks much about him, and I haven't really asked. But I have heard good things about my maternal grandfather. The other thing and it's not something I would ever speak to with my family, but I can say it here, is that often with people's families, where there's a gay child, you can often trace it back. There was a gay uncle, or there was a gay. You can see how it goes through the generations. And on my paternal side,
do you think it might be a genetic thing then?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, Paul from school has got gay relatives, and there's so many people I know who are gay.
To me, it would be
Yeah, there's so many gay guys that I know who've got gay relatives, but it's whether it was acknowledged.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And in my family, it wouldn't be acknowledged. But my paternal grandfather was one of 8 boys, and not all of them married. And I don't know if I met all of them, but yeah, I just statistically, you would think that maybe one of those, whether subconsciously, whether openly, whether keeping it to themselves, well, not openly because I don't know about it, but whether one of those guys or maybe one of the ones who wasn't married was gay. I can't trace to any known member of my family, but that's because I can't see it ever being something that would have been discussed.
Yeah.
Whereas in Paul from school's family, it was more widely known. So yeah, I mean, quite like to have met each of those. Oh, like some of them I did, but I wouldn't quite. But you probably wouldn't have got a definitive answer because those people wouldn't have. But it's just interesting.
There's a lot of there's people like my aunt and my godfather who I have only vague 70s memories of, and I would have liked to have gotten to know them a bit better. That's Pixie's late husband.
I know.
Sister.
I met a lot more of my family than my brother ever did. So, well, I think that's about it. More randomness next time.
Oh, I think that was a wonderful episode, don't you, Toppy? I sure do. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, what was that? Was that 2 hours? It was at least 4 hours. How long was this podcast? I don't know. It was at least 5 hours.
Oh, kitty Dee. Purr, kitty. Oh, I love Dee. This is just the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Wow, I love that one. Great show, Paul. Yep.
720. 726.
That is beautifully done.
Oi, that's your lot.
You can always call me.
Et voilà.